What's up, everybody? So today we are going to be talking about the future of Call of Duty Black Ops 7. So over the weekend, I got to attend Call of Duty Next, where they showcased various facets of Call of Duty Black Ops 7, including multiplayer, zombies, and new Warzone offerings. So today we are going to go over the positives and negatives of every single mode, as well as all the new features that are going to be coming to every single mode, and whether I think they are good or bad for the game. And then we're going to give each single mode a ranking. They didn't really tell us much campaign details, but they did actually reveal the Call of Duty Black Ops 7 Mastery camos for every single mode, which I think look phenomenal. So we're going to go over every single mode, and we're going to actually start with the campaign. So as much as we don't have a ton of information about the campaign and the story, from the trailers, it looks very futuristic, and it looks like to be a continuation of that Black Ops 2 storyline, which I think is really cool because the Black Ops 2 story and campaign was a lot of fun. They also told us that it's going to be a co-op campaign, so you'll have the option of playing with friends, which I always think is a good thing, and especially if you have friends that want to play campaign, or if you prefer to go in that solo direction, hey, you can always do that too. As far as how well it's going to do and how well the story is going to be, well, that's, yet to be seen. There's been various Call of Duties that have had co-op aspects that have been done really well, while there's also been a couple that were not very good. But I think the biggest key when it comes to this campaign is that there's going to be endgame content. That means that we're going to get to explore Avalon, as well as do various objectives, which reminds me of the Modern Warfare Zombies experience from Modern Warfare 3, where we got to free roam around the map and kill zombies and mercenaries and do contracts and work on camos and stuff like that. So I think, that's a positive. I think having more things to do in the game is always awesome, more ways to grind. And on top of that, we can actually progress our camos through the campaign to work towards that mastery camo, which is going to give us even more incentive to actually play the mode. On top of that, if you guys like PvE experiences where you're not necessarily playing against players all the time and you want to sit back and relax and kill some AI with your friends, you can always do that and you're going to be rewarded for it. So as far as what they've shown from the campaign and in terms of like end game progression systems, I overall think this is a W. Not only that, the camos look phenomenal, and you guys can obviously take a look here. They look insane. So for the campaign camos, we have Molten Gold, which is another take on the gold camo. I think it looks really sick. Moonstone, which is more of that like platinum looking camo that we've seen on the other modes as well, but a different variation of it. We have Chroma Flux, which I think is awesome. It looks very nice and blue, and it's got a bunch of swirls on it. And then we have the Mastery camo, Genesis, which is green, and it looks like an emerald-esque color, and I love it. I think it looks sick. Honestly, I'm going to grind every single camo, so I'm hyped about it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all the campaign details we've had. Like I said, I'm excited for it, more things to grind. And if I were to give this a current rating from what we know in terms of just end game content, the fact that we can do this, as a group, or you can go in solo, you pretty much have tons of options. And as well as those camos, let's be honest here, that's the main allure for somebody like me. I'd say I'm going to give this a 7. In terms of like how much better this can get, well, if the storyline is good and there's plenty things to do on that big open PvE map, this could go even higher. But for the campaign, I'm actually rather excited, and I'm a multiplayer guy, so that's kind of saying something. But that Modern Warfare Zombies experience wasn't too bad, and I feel like if they took the good things of that and evolved on it, hey, it could be even better. So yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about, and I'm sure it's the reason why most of you guys are here, considering I'm a ranked content creator, a multiplayer guy, we're going to talk about multiplayer. So with multiplayer, they're obviously evolving the game's mechanics. They are bringing back next level Omni movement, which is basically a more tame version of the current Omni movement system. The slides are not as fast. In order to get that sort of speed, you need to attach certain perks, certain attachments in order to get that acceleration up. But for the most part, it seems like you have a lot more control of how your player moves, and it feels a lot less floaty. On top of that, you get the wall bouncing, and that is going to be the main mechanic here in this game when it comes to avoiding players, juking players out, and also maneuvering the maps, because the maps that we played were built with Omni movement in mind, and that wall bouncing mechanic, in order for you to either get to certain elevations of the map or to traverse certain areas and just get to places a little bit quicker, or maybe through alternative means. They also decided to do something that we haven't had since Cold War. They decide to remove tac sprinting. And I think this is an overall amazing change. I think Omni movement plays better without tac sprint, but on top of that, It's just really tiring having to basically either click that stick in twice or having to use auto tac sprint, which is essentially going to give you worse sprint out times and make it so you get killed, in certain scenarios because you are tac sprinting. So I'm glad to see it gone. I'm glad to see it attached to a perk. If you want to use it and increase your speed, by all means, but the speed in the game in terms of no tac sprint is actually still pretty fast. So I, expect that it's going to be a more of a niche thing, but we're going to actually talk about the perk details a little bit later. So in terms of extra things to do in multiplayer that they've added weapon prestige again. So that way we actually have 250 total levels that we can actually go up to. And every single time we hit a new 50 mark, I think you hit 50 mark once, you hit 50 mark twice. And then after that, you go to 250. And every time you hit 50, you are going to be rewarded a camo. And they actually showed off a lot of these camos. And for the most part, all of the ones that we saw were basically remastered versions of the original Black Ops 2 DLC camos, among many more that they have not actually revealed. So I'm pretty excited for it. Honestly, again, more camos equals more things to grind for, more rewards. I think it's going to keep people playing. It's going to keep me playing. I'm going to be grinding the hell out of it before rank comes out. So I'm pretty happy about it. And then again, you have the classic prestige system. So that way you guys have even more, icons to grind or more calling cards or icons and stuff like that you can go through. So that's always a good thing. Everyone loves classic prestige. And then finally, they have the mastery camos that we all know and love from other modes. But this time, we're not getting dark matter. Thank God. I'm tired of dark matter. They finally added some new camos, and they added shattered gold, which is another gold camo that has like these black like rifts running through it. They added Arclight, which is another take on that like platinum camo. It's very shiny. It's got like a bunch of like, texture. It feels like very textured, very marbly. And then they added Tempest, which I think looks amazing. It's just basically got a bunch of like lightning running through it. It's blue. It looks super sick. And then they have the final camo, which is Singularity. And that one looks the most kind of like a dark matter-esque camo with like a bunch of stars running through it. And then a more lightning and stuff like that cruising through it. So finally, we get some different mastery camos that aren't dark matter, and I think they look amazing. I'm looking forward to grinding for it as well. And they also made it so that a lot of the challenges are a little bit more tame in multiplayer, zombies, Warzone, and stuff like that. They gave details in the blog post, which if you guys haven't seen the video, you guys can go check out where I go over that blog in detail. But yeah, I'm super excited for it. Even more details on the multiplayer. Let's talk about the maps. The maps were the biggest positive, the biggest difference for me going from Black Ops 6 to Black Ops 7. A lot of people were kind of the impression that the game was going to be the same, and to a degree with the movement aspect, I do get it. It is a Black Ops title. We just got Omni movement, so naturally, game is going to feel very similar in terms of the way you move around the map and the game mechanics. However, that was never the problem in Black Ops 6. The biggest problem with Black Ops 6 was the horrendous maps. And I'm sure at first there was points in the, in my time playing the beta and stuff like that where I was like, okay, this game is fun, but the maps I'm concerned about. And rightfully so. I mean, I remember in the beta, we were running around Scud. We were running around Derelict. I think Skyline was the only map that I remember that we played that was actually in the CDL rotation. Maybe Vault? Was Vault in the beta? I'm not sure. Anyways, I just remember playing those maps and just feeling like we are in trouble. These maps are way too small. They just didn't feel like Call of Duty maps. They felt like Warzone POIs. And I feel like this is the biggest difference from the maps that we have seen so far. These maps don't feel like POIs on a big map. They feel like they are but they are meticulously created for the game with Omni movement in mind. They don't feel like they're just POIs. They feel like actual Call of Duty maps. They have 3 lanes. They're very distinct. More often than not, I'm not going to be getting shot from across the map in a separate lane that I can't see or I'm not aware of because I'm too busy, maneuvering through my own lane. It feels like there's actual gunfights in front of you and you don't have to worry about 18 different angles or 18 different corners. You're just focused on your own lane and how you are going to execute and play through that lane. I loved every single map, to be honest. Even the smaller maps, which I know will not be competitive, were still very fun. Like Blackheart, for example, it reminded me a lot of Frequency, except smaller in terms of the way the layout was. You had that center, where you can basically go to any other side of the map. You had that long hallway with the wall bouncing on it, where you can basically head glitch it and just kind of watch over the other lane, kind of how, Frequency had a very similar aspect to it with the long hallways on the edge. And then you had, the other side of the map, which had a little bit more variance and a lot more space and a little bit longer sight lines. And then obviously, once you're in the spawn, you can pretty much spawn trap and spawn kill, which I thought was a lot of fun. But that map was honestly enjoyable, and it was one of the smaller ones. And then you got Cortex, which is another small map, which reminded me of a like biolab hybrid with like, I think, Breakout from Infinite Warfare. The inside was very open, but it also had these like red vials on the side, which allowed you to kind of like maneuver and avoid the lines of sights from each window on the opposing sides of the map. And then you had obviously the mid lane where you could go over to that side of the map that reminds me of a lot like Breakout, where it's just a lot more tight corners and a couple of flanking routes, and it just felt very simple. And I think that's what I miss in Call of Duty, is just simple maps. I don't like the whole feeling of feeling like I'm on a giant Warzone POI with so many angles and places to hide. It just felt very, natural to play on, and it just reminded me of Call of Duty maps of old. And then obviously you got Exposure and Imprint, which were the two maps that they showcased in Uplink, or sorry, is it called Overdrive? What's the map mode called? I'm not sure, but it's the Uplink game mode. It's the one with the portals on each side, and you have to take a singular objective, and two teams are fighting over it to score points. But anyways, we got to play those on that game mode, which the game mode I felt like played good. But I really wish we got to play those maps on hardpoint, because those are two of the maps that I felt like had a lot more room to breathe. There was a lot more longer sightlines, medium range sightlines. There was less tight corners and stuff like that you would see on some of the other maps, or things that you're used to on Black Ops 6. And it honestly felt like the maps were just very easy to maneuver. They were very easy to understand. It just never really felt confusing as terms of where enemies could be, which I liked a lot. And then we had Toshin, which is a map that we actually did get to play in hardpoint. It's got that sort of Japanese aesthetic. Again, not a lot of verticality. There's like one window on each side of the middle map that allowed you to kind of get sightline over the center. And then pretty much everything is on flat land, where you're not really having to look at 100 different angles in the sky. It felt really, really simple. But it was beautiful, man. Like I said, I couldn't get enough of the maps. I'm very excited to see all the new ones that they're going to add, as well as all the remasters. In fact, we are going to be getting 16 multiplayer 6v6 maps, and 2 of those are remasters, which we obviously didn't get to see, but we all remember Raid and we all remember Express. So seeing 14 other maps that are brand new, including the ones that we just saw, which would bring it to a total of 6 of them that we've seen. That's less than half of the maps that we've actually seen that are going to be new. I'm super excited. And then they also said that they are going to be adding 7 maps from release until the end, or until season 1. That is insane. We've never had that many maps in that short of a time span as, in ages. And on top of that, that means that we're going to get all these maps and be able to make the best CDL/ranked rotation we've probably ever had. It's going to feel complete. It's not going to feel like we're just waiting through a season for a map to be removed or a map to be added, because there's just such lackluster, maps to play. I think, like I said, the multiplayer is looking like the best thing that we have to offer in Black Ops 7, and I'm super excited for it. Anyways, let's talk about the kill streaks, because that's the next thing we got to talk about. The kill streaks in this game are all insane. They are very powerful. The spawn protection is very limiting. It's sick. It just reminds me of all the old games where you could just farm kills. The VTOL was super OP. It was super strong. The wraps, or the HKDs, I think is what they're called now, are insane, especially with those overclocks that you can make them more tanky. You're just not getting away from them, and they're just blowing up everything. On top of that, you have a new score streak. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a sniper that allowed you to see through walls and shoot people. It's like a charge rifle. I think that's very unique. And it also offers, maybe some sort of counterplay if you maybe put on cold-blooded. I don't think anyone was really running it, so I don't know if anyone would appear off of it. But if you could play some, have some counterplay around it, maybe that shit could be used in the CDL to a degree, right? It solves the problem of not being able to use snipers, and it allows you to basically earn a sniper. Granted, it could shoot through walls. Again, if cold-blooded is a counterplay to it, I don't really see the issue. But anyways, the kill streaks were all insane, and we didn't even get to see all of them. Like the hand cannon, which we've seen in other games, it wasn't in the build, and that score streak is insane. The overclock system as well, where you're able to fine-tune the way that your throwables perform, your field upgrades perform, and adds playstyle variety. I think all of those things are amazing additions to the game. They just create variety. The one thing, and this is one of my only problems. I wouldn't say my only, because I actually have one more complaint that I'll bring in after, is the perk distribution. I don't think perk 1 should be that stacked. It pretty much creates a crutch perk. Currently in perk 3, Tax Sprinter was the only one that was pretty much worth using. Maybe Looper if you're like a person that plays, public matches, but that will never be used in competitive. And, obviously they want to find a balance of like competitive perks as well as public match perks. So they need to move some perks around. I think moving Dexterity in perk 3, which they plan to do, is already going to be a good thing. And then they are going to move, I think, Scavenger in perk 1 and Looper into perk 2. I think it's going to be a lot better because I'm not a fan of having every single perk that is necessary to play the game. For example, having Flak Jacket, having Ninja, having Lightweight, having Fast Hands, like having all of them all at once kind of ruins the game because everyone is running the same perks, at least in competitive, and there's no actual meta. It also means that you are pretty much protected against every single thing in the game, as well as having maximum movement speeds that you could possibly have. Having perk 1 stacked so much will create some sort of a variety, but they do need to spread it out a little bit. I think moving Dexterity into perk 3 is going to already be a good start because that's going to make it so you choose between Dexterity and Tac Sprint. That way, if you want to go full speed, well, you can use Lightweight and Tac Sprint, but you're not going to have Dexterity, so engaging while you're at full speed is not going to be as smooth, right? So you're already going to be making sacrifices, and it's going to be a little bit better, but we'll have yet to see, because I know even the public match players have a problem with not being able to have goals, cold-blooded, ninja, etc., etc. So hopefully they listen to the community and they spread it out just a little bit. That was one of my main complaints. And then my second complaint is the amount of automatic doors in the game. Listen, I'm a fan of not having to open doors by hitting square, but I'm not a fan of doors in general. I think that having automatic doors is maybe a step in the right direction, but too many of them still causes an issue where, hey, if the door's automatic, that means it's closed all the time. You can just hold an angle at the door and wait for somebody to run in. The door opens, you kill them. Second thing that, happens is you have to shoot that door in order to open it, but that just gives away your position if you're trying to look through the other side. So you're either having to run through a door blind and not actually have a line of sight through the next room, or you have to shoot it open, but now people are going to know you're there, so they're just going to pre-aim the doorway anyways. I think for CDL, and hell, if they could do it for pubs, but I doubt it's going to happen, if they can keep those doors open permanently using a setting like dynamic map elements, it would fix everything. That's my only real complaint with the maps. But as far as that, man, dude, they've added so many great things to multiplayer, and the main thing that the problem was in Black Ops 6 was the maps. They pretty much addressed that. So I'm super excited for multiplayer. If I had to give it a rating right now from what we have, I'm giving it an 8. I think it's only going to get better, especially if they continue to listen to the community. Obviously, the new maps, all the new weapons they're going to add, everything. It's fantastic. This is the best multiplayer I've played in a very long time. Obviously, whether you like the futuristic setting, whether you like Omni movement, all that stuff, that's going to be a personal preference. I personally don't mind it, so naturally I'm going to think it's a lot better. But I know there's a lot of people that play multiplayer that want a more grounded experience. They want movement like Modern Warfare 2019 or Modern Warfare 2, which is a lot slower, and they don't really want that wall jumping, or they want like a modern setting. But at the end of the day, this is what we're given, and if you're not a fan of it, then you're not going to like multiplayer as much. But if you liked basically Black Ops 6 in terms of the movement and the gunplay, and you want more of that on way better maps with more things to do, Call of Duty Black Ops 7 multiplayer is definitely for you. All right, so with multiplayer out of the way, the next thing we are going to be talking about is zombies. Zombies, I'm not a zombies guy. I'm gonna be honest. I just go in there, I grind the camo. But I know a lot of you guys at home are kind of wondering what they have to offer, and I did get to play a little bit of that next, so I still have an opinion on it. But they're going to be adding Ashes of the Damned, which is going to be a new round-based zombies experience, which we actually got to play a small portion of it. And I honestly didn't mind. I liked the aesthetic. It was super dark. It was really sick. There was like a lot of different like POIs in the big zombies map, and you actually had to get around using some sort of a truck, so they have like a vehicle in it, which I think creates some variety, and the perks were very spread. They also had like jump pads and stuff like that to maneuver and get to POIs a lot quicker. I thought it was pretty sick. And they also added new zombies. They had like some like crawlers, and they made this like weird, almost alien-esque noise. It was kind of sick. But obviously, not being a zombies guy, you know, maybe some people don't like that. I don't know. But I do know they're coming out with the standard mode, which we have now, which is going to give you pretty much what we have now, a main quest, and then on the current zombie maps that they're going to be adding. But they're also going to have survival, which is going to be a smaller portion of the map, and you basically just have to survive as long as you can. So it pretty much dumbs down the experience, but it makes it easy if you just want to go there and just see how long you can go. And then curse mode. I think that is going to be the most exciting thing, because it's a hardcore mode where you start with a pistol, you get no minimap, you get the classic point system, and you don't have to use loadouts. And the best part about it, I think from what it seems like, is you like collect relics, and I think these relics add like different difficulties or different affixes to the game mode, which will make it harder. I could be completely wrong, but hey, if Call of Duty's looking for a great idea, they should honestly make zombies like Mythic Plus from World of Warcraft. If any of you guys have played World of Warcraft or an RPG, Mythic Plus basically adds you adds a thing where you can go into different dungeons, which essentially would be different zombies maps, and play with affixes that make it harder, like exploding enemies or tankier enemies, or certain things like that. And I don't know if that's what it is, because I obviously don't follow zombies a lot, but if it is, that is fucking awesome. And I feel like, hell, they should add that. It would add a way more difficult zombies experience for those of you guys that want something more to grind and something harder to do. Hell, add it to the game. But that's why I think what Cursed Mode is. And then Dead Ops Arcade, which if you guys played the original Dead Ops Arcade and the ones from other games, I think those are really fun to play with friends. It's like the top-down zombies game mode. And I think it's awesome. And then they also added directed mode from the current CODs, which are going to basically have you walk through the main quest for those of you guys that are too newbie to complete it or just don't know how. But overall, I mean, from what I've seen with the zombies experience, the only real things that are new, right, that differ from the current zombies experience is obviously the newer maps. Oh, I missed one. Vandor Farm. It's a survival map. I don't know if it's going to be a round-based map, but we didn't get to play it at Next. But it's going to be a survival map. So they are adding even more content. But again, that curse mode sounds fucking awesome. I think if it's anything with like what I explained, hell, if it's even close to what I explained, I think that's going to be really fun. And then Dead Ops Arcade, I think is fun. If I had to rate zombies, I'd probably give it a 7. I mean, I think a lot of people liked the current zombies experience in this game. The only thing they wanted was a classic mode, and they're delivering on that. If they're going to be delivering maps and cool ass main quests all the time, as well as that cursed game mode, I think the zombies fans are going to be very, very, very happy about it. So I'm going to give it a 7, but again, not a zombies guy, so I'll let you guys, be the judge. Oh, there's actually a couple more things that I missed in the zombies, but they added a new wonder weapon, which I think is going to be cool, because the wonder weapons are basically what makes zombies, what it is. And they are going to add new ammo mods and new perks. I actually have notes here for it. So a new Perca-Cola is called Wisp Tea, and the new ammo mod is called Fireworks. They also added a new field upgrade, which is Toxic Growth, which I actually did get to see. But basically, it's these like vines that'll come out of like the ground and like basically just cover enemies and strangle them and do some damage. So I think it like will. It's kind. I feel like it's kind of like a barbed wire-esque thing. But I did see that in the game. They're also adding 66 new augments to unlock, so for the perks, which I think is cool because that adds a variety to your playstyle. Gobblegums that return from Black Ops 3. You can build packs of 5 and store up to 3. And yeah, I mean, I'm not a zombies guy, so I'm kind of just reading a couple things. Oh, the new Wonder Vehicle. So the vehicle that you will be using on the Ashes of Damned map is called Old Tessie. And it's upgradable and repairable and aided by Ted, the bus driver. That's cool. But yeah, not really a zombies guy, but from what I know and what I've seen, I'm gonna grind the zombies mode to get the camos. I think it's definitely gonna play pretty good. It's got to be at least a 7 for me. I feel like I'm rushing through this, so I'm actually missing things, but I totally forgot to actually talk about the camos. They added camos. They added more camos to zombies, and they look insane. These are going to be some of the best looking camos in the game. I think this is probably the best set of camos that they've showed off, and I'm very excited to grind these. So they added Golden Dragon. They added Bloodstone, which I think looks insane. I'm a big red colored guy, so any sort of like red, purple, pink, crimson camo, it's got that like same kind of texture that you would see on like the Moonstone, or I forgot what the other camo is called, like the Diamond-esque camos in multiplayer and campaign, but it's fucking red and like pink. I think that's insane. And then they added Doom Steel, which reminds me a lot of the camo from Warzone. The is it called Abyss, where it's got that like black and like white, but it's also got like a blue like aura of like streaks running through it, like a light blue turquoise. I think that looks really sick. And then finally, the crazier camo, Infestation. It's got this like orange yellow glow with like these like black tentacles running through it. I think that shit looks fucking dope, and I'm gonna be grinding the hell out of zombies after multiplayer, of course, in order to get it. So yeah, super sick, man. I'm happy about pretty much every aspect of the game except for one, and this one that we're going to be talking about. Again, I don't play this game mode a lot, but when they went to this game mode, and from talking to other creators, they were not happy about it. They felt like it was just stale. Game mode was dead. A lot of people were saying they were going to go play Battlefield. Warzone, man. Warzone. What did you do? First off, listen, I have notes here, but I'm not even going to read them because there's only one positive, and I'll talk about it at the end. But everything else was just despair, bro. They added 2 POIs, so Verdansk, and I don't even care what they're named. 2 POIs? Verdansk? First off, Verdansk? I'm not even getting a new big map? Anyways, and then they added this new map called Haven's Hollow, which is essentially like a piece together zombies / Warzone Resurgence map. And while I think the concept sounds pretty cool, I just don't really know if it's going to fit that Warzone Resurgence experience that people want. Warzone Resurgence is, to me, like a glorified multiplayer / Warzone experience. And people want close range fights. They want fast pace. And that map, at least from what I played, was very open. It was completely different from like a Rebirth or a Vandal. It just felt like you can get shot across the map. And I feel like people that play Resurgence don't really like that. They want confined engagements where people are kind of like separated or things are very hectic. And they don't really want that like open world type of experience. So I don't know if it's going to play any good. Plus, it's just zombies maps put together. You know, like Liberty Falls and stuff like that, the mansion. Yeah, I don't really know what was going on there. And then, oh, this is a big one. They didn't add the wall bounce to Warzone. They added all the new guns and the new field upgrades and stuff, and the new vehicles. But you're telling me the key in Black Ops 7 that they added to the movement isn't going to be in Warzone? I can't be the only one that thinks that's actually insane. I think a lot of people were just kind of like, what the fuck? And then they obviously tried to save the show at the end by basically saying, you know, in 2026, we're going to be getting a Blackout inspired game mode on Avalon, which I think is cool because that means, hey, we're going to get a new map. But on top of that, that Blackout experience, that true BR experience is going to be a lot better. And I really hope they don't fuck that up, because if they want to have 2 modes, right, your normal Warzone mode with loadouts and stuff like that, keep it in the game, give us Avalon, and then let people play Blackout, let people farm attachments and loot and go out there and not have to worry about playing a game mode where it's essentially dominated by a meta. I just think it ruins the game. You know, it ruins Battle Royale when there's a meta and you have to go and play with those guns for an entire game. Otherwise, you're basically just going to lose. Blackout fixes that issue because, you know, every game is going to be different. You're going to pick up different guns, and yeah, sure, there's going to be guns that are better than the others, but there's not a guarantee you're going to get them every single game. So I think that's going to be awesome when they finally release it. But again, it being in 2026, pretty far down the line when, you know, GTA 6 is going to release its game, I'm not entirely sure what they're thinking there. So the Warzone community is pretty down bad, man. I feel for them, man, because at one point it felt like multiplayer was on the decline and Warzone was on the rise. Now it's the complete opposite. So I wasn't a fan of what I saw in Warzone. I know they added a bunch of other things, like the way they changed up the perks, and they took away tack sprint and added to a perk. They added like a combat rule, which I think looks kind of corny and clunky. But at the end of the day, they did add a couple new things, but they don't really impact the game a lot. And I don't really know if it's gonna bring back any players. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's just not gonna be attractive enough to want people to come back, or to make people want to come back. So I'm also gonna give Warzone a 3 out of 10. I just don't think it's the improvements that they've made, hell, if there even is any, are going to be enough to bring anybody back. Hell, it's going to drive a lot of people away. So I really do feel bad for the Warzone homies. And, I hope, in 2026 when they release Avalon, things are, coming back on the up and up. But yeah, I'm pretty down bad for the Warzone homies. But before I go, they did also add more camos to Warzone, and we'll talk about them for a second. They added the golden Damascus, which I think actually looks like one of the better golden camos, if you're a fan of gold. They added Starglass, which I'm not a very big fan of. It's like a green tiger camo. It's pretty fucking ugly in my opinion. They added Absolute Zero, which I think looks all right. And then they added Apocalypse, which I think is the best one of the bunch. It's the final mastery camo for Warzone. It's got like black textures with like red, lines running through it. It kind of looks like like an obsidian with like red stripes running through it. It looks pretty cool. So again, I'm gonna grind it. Not happy about it because Warzone is pretty boring and dead. But hopefully, they have some plunder, some casual modes in there to make it a lot easier. But yeah. That's gonna be my review for every single game mode. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, man. I really wanted to talk about everything that I saw. And again, I've been sick like this whole week. I went to COD Next. I was sick. I'm recording this video. I'm still sick. But I'm going to have a lot more videos coming for you guys in the beta with detailed settings guides, weapon guides, giving you guys what the best weapons are to use and what I think, at least from playing the current build. I'm going to have like theory crafting with competitive builds. I'm going to have theory crafting with perks and all of that sort of things, and my predictions for, what we have to see in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed, man. I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Help push that video out there, man. And I appreciate the support on the content grind. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Peace. And I'll see you guys in the beta. Bye-bye.